Hey guys, welcome to the Heart of David. Hope you guys are doing well wherever you are in the world. I thought you guys might be interested in this video of Oliver Anthony. I had to do a retake because I screwed up, but my rabbit was going nuts flipping his box. Maybe you haven't seen this before, but I'm sure you've probably heard of his his song that went viral. What's it called? Richmond, North of Richmond. It's quite a good song. It's a song done in a very hard times, right? And I believe he's from West Virginia. And this isn't about his song, but he obviously did quite well for himself, and he wasn't in a good position when he wrote that. And the people in West Virginia, those are coal mining places, right? And a lot of the coal mining was taken away, and a lot of addiction and suffering there. In any case, I saw this, and I'm not kidding you, I can't remember exactly. I know for sure it brought me to, the edge of tears, right? Or even may have. I watched this twice over. It's so good that I just want to show it again. But first, and this will just take like a minute or so, I want to talk about something in the Bible, about the characters of the Bible. I haven't spoken about before, and I think they get a really unfair shake before the internet was out, but especially since there's so much, garbage that just goes viral and people writing blogs and comments and stuff like that. I think some characters, if those people were here today to hear the things that they say about them, and I'm sure you know the characters I'm talking about, they'd be stunned, right? And they, who knows, they'd probably laugh, but they'd probably be, they would be shocked. They would certainly be shocked by some of the things, like what about Peter, upon this rock I'll build my church? That's not what it meant about him being a pope. Can you imagine? Excuse me, abdominal disorders. We will see him again, whether or not we know what his reaction from knowing this is. I don't know, but let's talk about some of them. The first one that I want to cover is Peter. I think he's got an unfair shake by people, by all kinds of people, because not everyone who reads the Bible is born again. In any case, everyone is worthy of saying their comment or whatever they think, but I think he'd be horrified at what's happened. What is spun off of that, the Catholic Church, the Vatican, which in my view is quite evil. The Dark Ages were because of them. It doesn't matter anyways, because they would have found something else, right? But can you just imagine how he would feel? And here's the main thing, and some of the best pastors who do great sermons call him a coward. Was he really a coward? Was Peter really a coward? And to be honest, I don't know the answer for sure. But can you imagine what he started to see Jesus getting beaten, whatever he saw? He had enough, he was brave enough to follow Jesus. I believe so did John, and so did John Mark. But, when he was warming his hands by the fire, can you imagine there's so much persecution going on towards Jesus, right? And then all of a sudden, everyone's focusing on you, and you got a whole crowd against you. Would you call him a coward for saying he didn't know Jesus? Maybe, but I mean, put yourself in that position. That was not a time yet where people had a Bible, had all the scriptures, had all that type of stuff, and they knew that they had no choice but to say you believe no matter what. That hadn't really been established yet. They didn't understand at that point. And especially when Paul came around, they really understood, right? In the transitional part of Acts. I think maybe he's got an unfair shake about that. And I think that, well, I don't know. What would you do, right? And I know it's different now. It's different now because you know that you have to accept death. You can't deny our Lord. And that didn't exist at that very point. What about Mary? Mary is blessed. I mean, like, why wouldn't she be blessed? She was chosen as a chosen vessel to bear, in her womb, the Messiah who would save us and who lived with us and understands our pains and all that. Just think about that. And she bore him, but also understand, it says, remember that passage that says, who are my brothers? And who is my mother? And who is my brothers and sisters? These are. He wasn't talking about Mary. He was talking about those who believed in him. On the other hand, there's no deity in Mary, okay, is what I'm saying. And I know if Mary was here, that there's no Queen of Heaven, okay? It's just the Father, the Son, and the Holy Spirit in that order. She would be horrified. I know she would be. I know she would be. Bowing down to her idol. In any case, let's see if, how about Paul? I just think with Paul that, how about Thomas? Although Thomas was it's normal to doubt. Maybe he just doubted more than other people, and that's true. But when he said, my Lord, my God, finally, right, he touched the hands, where the holes were and stuff like that. And story goes, possibly, that he went to India, right, and he was killed there for his faith. I just think that these guys, it's just stories passed along. People say anything they want, and they were special to God. In any case, let's listen to this. And as much as I would like to interrupt, I think I'm just gonna let it all play. And if I have something to say, I'll say it in the end. This is beautiful, and boy, does he ever do a good job on this. If you haven't heard it, watch it all the way through.
Got a few minutes here, so I've written some things down so you don't have to listen to me ramble, but there is an evil I have seen under the sun, the sort of error that arises from a ruler. Fools are put in many high positions, while the rich occupy low ones. I have seen slaves on horseback, while princes go on foot like slaves. Since August of 2023, I have received a flood of messages, social media, email, handwritten letters. I've had I don't know how many conversations with people face to face, probably thousands at this point. And I realize now that we don't have any clue to how many around us are really broken. How many are...
Apologies, I just had to cut in because I did a take and I said something and I forgot to say it in this. When he wrote a song, he he wasn't doing well in life, right? And I can't remember if I just said this, but he's from, I believe, West Virginia, and it's very poor around there, right? Because of all the coal mining that was taken away, and a lot of that was taken away due to outsourced jobs to China and stuff like that. And so he wrote that song, and you can go look at it. Richmond, north of Richmond, very good.
Silently suffering and barely hanging on. More often than not, they start the message with, "Hey, I'm a nobody, but," followed by horrors of addiction, mental illness, financial and household struggles, oftentimes incredibly complicated stories that I suspect they may have never told anyone before. But they still have hopes of a hopeful future, and they don't want to give up no matter what. And it kills me because these people, they aren't nobodies, as they describe themselves. Our modern society's convenient, comfortable, fragile little existence is oftentimes carried on the backs of these self-declared nobodies. And forgive my generalization, but in the modern world, we are so busy idolizing the genuine nothings of society, the self-centered celebrities, spineless politicians, clickbait social media influencers. It seems from my perspective that oftentimes these people live comfortable little lives while many of our real heroes are dragged through the mud and never once given a genuine thank you for it. But it's not just them that are hurting. We all are. I mean, that's why you're here at this conference, right? That's why people have traveled from all over the world to gather here. You all realize that it's time to do something. So to set the record straight, I'm not here as an intellectual or a psychologist or a politician or even a respected member of society, all things considered. I'm a high school dropout who lives in a log cabin in the woods in Virginia. I myself am just a 32-year-old nobody. So I'm just here today as the messenger. I believe that many of the problems identified at this conference are quite possibly symptoms of a bigger problem. We currently exist in an age of rapid digital immersion. The current average American teenager will have spent something like 30,000 hours by the time they are 30 on social media. The average American spends 6 to 9 hours a day staring at devices. And whether it's a city sidewalk, a family dinner table, the receptionist at an office, even people driving their damn cars down the roadway, I constantly see the struggle between maintaining conscious attention in the real world and the overwhelming pull we feel towards the digital one. And in my unprofessional opinion, neuroplasticity has made us increasingly digitally proficient, but at a cost of being digitally dependent. And if being hired on as a London cab driver can change your brain on an MRI scan, and if life experiences like PSD can alter the DNA in sperm, what irreversible alterations will 30,000 hours of staring into algorithmically fed state of hypnosis do to the human mind or to their offspring? And in this short breath of time, we live in a state of existence that quite possibly no one else in world history has. We have both access to instant global connectivity, infinite information, and consumer-level access to artificial intelligence, but we're the last few humans in world history who remember what life was like before it. We are the last living people in history to have experienced life before the digital age. And I fear that it may become nearly impossible for younger generations to even...
By the way, go back and look at my videos. I'll probably link it up. I made a video on this subject. I'm 46. I'm 14 years older than him, so I was in that. I saw everything. I was like right in the middle of it when everything was being developed, so it might interest you.
Even differentiate the digital world from the real one before the end of my lifetime. There is nothing inherently wrong with technology, there is nothing wrong with instant connection, and there is nothing intrinsically bad about access to abundant information. But what is bad is the lack of control and agency we have over these systems, and without realizing it, we are being programmed, and our culture is becoming commodified. Therefore, the more time we spend on these digital information systems, the more we revert to the mean of one of a fixed set of broad internet cohorts. In other words, the more time we spend online, the more commoditized our culture, the more tribal our psychology, and the more vulnerable we become. When the floods first came to Western North Carolina last year,
how can I monetize you?
There were tens of thousands of people who showed up to help from all over the country. No one asked them, no one paid them, and most of the world has no idea they were ever even there. I was there the same day that the governor of North Carolina came for his little photo op. He made a public announcement that day saying that the current statewide death toll with the floods, He made a public announcement that day with the current statewide death toll of the floods. But that same morning alone, volunteer veterans with cadaver dogs that I had met with had pulled 15 bodies out of a single pile of debris near the KOA campground in Swannanoa. The statewide count at that point had to have been well into the hundreds. I believe the number the governor used that day was 28. In fact, there was a reefer truck that sat for 2 days full of bodies because the morgues were overflowing. And while FEMA was hoarding donated generators and denying people on their applications, it was the nobodies of the world that were driving ATVs and Jeeps with chainsaws up mountain roads rescuing people. There was 2 guys we met that hot-wired a bulldozer from a quarry to cut a navigable path through a washed-out road in 2 days that the state said would take months, allowing supplies to people who hadn't had contact with anyone in over a week.
Bureaucracy.
Volunteers were working 16 hours a day, taking supplies on everything from horses to helicopters. It was humanity there in front of my very eyes. And it was in that 7 days in North Carolina that changed everything for me. It was people saving people. Even with lack of leadership, failed protocols, and overwhelming inefficiency from the state, the nobodies took up the slack. And so I'm just here to remind you that we don't need our false idols. We should no longer rely on politicians who bow down to money to manage our city or our states. We need to find the real leaders everywhere and empower them. Western North Carolina was proof to me that there is an army of good people left in this world who want to do good things. We just have to give them places to gather and give them the ability to act. And so I close with this. Do not fret because of those who are evil, or be envious of those who do wrong, for like the grass they will soon wither, like green plants they will soon die away. Trust in the Lord and do good. Dwell in the land and enjoy safe pasture. Take delight in the Lord, and He will give you the desires of your heart. And so I'll see you on April the 5th in Spruce Pine, North Carolina for the first official gathering. It is now my life's mission to revive rural America one town at a time. It's called the Rural Revival Project. So thank you for listening.
Yeah, what he said there, when I look back on the calendar, I just looked to see that was only 2 days ago, whatever that was he went to there. Isn't that unfortunate that, I mean, this was the theme with the Biden administration, wasn't it? It appeared as though everything that went wrong was, but it appeared purposeful. Lahaina, what I'm talking about is the response to it. The train wreck in Pennsylvania, that they burned all those chemicals and ruined that town of 5 or 10,000, whatever it is. The Afghanistan withdrawal, North Carolina, what gives? FEMA's out of money, this type of things, and it's wonderful to hear that. When things go wrong like that, all the people, I know there was people from Canada that went down there and helped. I can't pretend to know a lot about it, but I will finish with this because I say this a lot. I say this a lot because I hope you hear me when I say this. Spend as little screen time as you can. I'm serious. So spend as little screen time as you can, because what that's doing is hypnotizing you. Excuse me, abdominal disorders. It's changing your own identity. Your identity is becoming one with the world. And I'm not saying that watching good, wholesome videos is there's nothing wrong with that, right? It's what you're watching. It's, are you flipping through all these things? And you know what? I just want to say, like, the difference that it's made in my life. I suffer with a lot of pain, and it keeps me, well, at least it did, a lot of the time in a single spot. And I needed, I needed things like my music and screen in my face, social media, all those things. But I changed my life in so many different ways. And I made my way away from social media. What I mean is like Facebook and huge spasm in my throat. Made my way away from Facebook, and I think you understand all those things. I just think, constant scrolling and all those types of things is gonna ruin. It's gonna make you depressed. It's not the way to go. In my own life, what do? I get up, I work out, I do my schooling, whatever I have to do, my chores. I make sure I go out for a walk, so I'm out in nature. I might go out and volunteer, about every couple days. Go my own little business. Take yourself out into the world, right? Take yourself out into the world. Take yourself into the world. Make sure you get out there, because what happens is you can only become better and more proficient, as he says. You become more proficient if you're dealing with people in communication, and just not having a need and a thought in your head of, I gotta go back. Like if it's a computer at home. So for me, it's that I don't use data on my phone. I don't use data on my phone. I don't use data on my phone. I don't use it because I know it's the type of thing that'll suck me in, because if I go outside, I want to make sure I'm looking at nature. I want to make sure, like I'm on my motorcycle or bike or whatever and taking in nature, because that's what God intended. Thanks for watching this video, guys, and God bless.